Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. I think Angus Robertson must have a bit of a soft spot for Lorna Slater. Maybe he fancies her, who knows? But given the Greens' current problems in trying to get the deposit return scheme off the ground, even though it is completely an abject failure, and I did a video yesterday on how even Tesco are rejecting this flawed policy, Miles Angus has stood up and said that it is not her fault. It is not the fault of the Greens or the SNP. It is utterly Westminster's fault. Because of course he will. He's trying to protect the woman he loves, I think. But why is he so bashful about admitting it? Who knows? But there he is. He stands there and of course he's blaming the Tories. He's blaming Westminster. He's not blaming the Greens. It seems a very odd stance given how many times the Greens have caused problems for the SNP that they are willing to stand up and protect them. We'll have a look at this article, but it does kind of make you think that Angus has lost, there's a bit of a screw loose in the head now. Maybe he's losing it. Or maybe it is, given the time of year. Just a bit of love. Who knows? Here goes. So, Angus Robertson's risible attempt to pass blame for the SNP and Greens' failing bottle return scheme. The SNP attempts to ignore the widespread and ongoing backlash to the DRS and have been called risible by the UK government, who are still considering an opt-out for the Scottish-only scheme, although I wouldn't hold out much hope because of the problems it would cause. Angry Angus has claimed UK ministers are undermining devolution over the delay in granting an opt-out of post-Brexit fair trade rules for the deposit return scheme. No, they haven't. He's claiming, the British government aren't doing this, not doing it. The British government didn't receive the documentation and the paperwork until very recently. The UK government told the Scottish Daily Express his comments were risible and said it was up to the SNP and Green administration to devise a workable scheme. Well, they're not capable of doing that, are they? We know they can't do anything properly. Everything they do is rubbish. The DRS has been pushed back from August until March 2024, when it will be quietly dropped, with the Scottish Government blaming the fact that a UK internal market exemption hasn't been granted by Westminster, and it is unlikely to be granted because the scheme is so awfully bad. The SNP claim they asked for an exemption in 2021, but Scottish Secretary Alistair Jack said he only received the formal application at the ministerial level on March the 6th this year. He has said the bar for granting an opt-out of the trade rules is very high. That's political speech for we aren't going to give you that exception. Speaking at Holyrood on Wednesday, Mr Robertson claimed the Internal Market Act itself, in his view, radically undermines the devolution settlement. It was introduced to prevent internal trade barriers being imposed between the four home nations. Because, of course, if you're a worker in Scotland, you want the right for your product to be sold in England without any kind of tariff or delay getting through customs and things like that. You want that open market. To want otherwise is sheer economic madness. And yet that is exactly what the SNP are proposing. Under the DRS, all drink containers sold in Scotland will have an additional 20p charge that can be only refunded at one of the vending machines, thereby breaching the trade rules by making drinks more expensive. The Constitution Secretary said the whole scheme would be at risk without an exemption, adding the fact that we're still waiting for decisions shows the vulnerability of the devolution settlement and the ability of the Scottish Parliament to use its powers to benefit the people of this country. I think you need to be looking at the vulnerability of your own government and its inability to post a letter in time. If he didn't receive that until the 6th of March and you've been yabbering on about it since 2021, it goes to show that in 2 years you still haven't got a workable scheme. Mr Robertson was responding to a question from West Niles MSP Alistair Allen, the SNP MSP, who characterised Mr Jack as having a scarcely a concealed desire to act like a Governor General. Well, somebody's got to protect the Scots, hasn't they? However, the MSPs failed to mention the fact that the supermarket giant Tesco had earlier joined the calls for the Scotland to join the UK-wide scheme planned for 2025. And I have already mentioned that in a video yesterday. And of course, Scotland won't join the UK scheme because it wasn't their idea, it wasn't their policy. They've got to be the ones seen to taking the credit for it. If they join the UK-wide one, it's seen as being, well, that's something that the UK's done that we didn't do, and therefore we're meaningless. Got news for you, mate. You're meaningless anyway. A UK government spokesperson said the Scottish Government aren't responsible for devising a workable scheme. The UK Government is considering a UK internal market exclusion in the usual way. Any attempt to pass on blame is risible. Because it is. He's blaming Westminster for a fact that his party and the Greens couldn't come up with a system that wasn't rubbish, expensive, open to fraud, inefficient and unpopular. Now, the UK government are looking at a nationwide version of this, but they want far more controls on it. They don't want any kind of fraudulent misuse and things like that. So they're looking at a much wider scheme. But that is an anathema to people like Robertson, because if you have, as I say, a scheme that's run that's the whole of the UK, it means that they cannot take credit for it, and they don't want to do anything that they can't take credit for. Well, tough. You've got the credit now. You've got the credit of having a rubbish scheme that will fall apart and is open to all sorts of abuse. But hey, it was the Greens again, wasn't it, Angus? They're always upset. But then you are the one leaping to their defence. They've come up with this really bad idea, and Angus has to leap to their defence because he doesn't like Lorna Slater's scheme being ridiculed, because he loves her. I shall round off and come up. So there you go. It is a bit pathetic, really, to blame Westminster because you couldn't put an envelope in the post in time. And even then, when it does get there, it's not likely to get through because it is such a moronic idea. It's damaging. It won't achieve anything. It won't achieve anything like what you think it's going to achieve. With all those vans running around, as I said in the video yesterday, all those vans running around, it's going to harm the environment more. You're putting the prices up so people will buy fewer, so it'll damage the economy, probably put people out of work. It's a very expensive scheme, and it's open to so much fraud that it will cost millions. People will get rich, but not you. You'll bankrupt the country over it. It's another thing. It's another typical SNP Green Alliance thought. The Greens come up with a really stupid idea, and the SNP decide to immediately implement it without looking at the consequences. But you don't expect anything less from these morons. So anyway, I shall leave it there. I shall let Mars Angus get back to admiring Lorna from afar with his unrequited love. Very gallant of him to stand up and blame someone else for her failures. Won't take it on the chin himself, of course. He has to blame the English. Anyway, I shall round off. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you see on the channel, please hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and definitely leave a like though. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, recycle your own rubbish, and goodbye.